It's awesome. It's a great opportunity. It's a podcast exclusively covering Tennessee baseball. I'm Landon Raby. With me always will be Murphy Carlton and Dylan Taylor, two great guys that love covering Tennessee baseball. And thank you to our sponsors. This wouldn't be possible without them: Hound Dogs, Blue Water Climate Control, and Tennessee Tap House. Also, our network, Volunteer Roadshow. You can check all of us out on Twitter. This is kind of going to be a new thing. We're probably going to do it on Tuesdays at 7 to be determined, but that's kind of what we're thinking right now. If y'all have questions, drop them in the chat. It's just going to be once a week. We're going to have big plans for this thing. We're going to have former players on, hopefully coaches, media members to talk about Tennessee baseball and really kind of bring some more exposure to it, more excitement. Football, basketball are two huge sports that Vol Nation has really kind of just been around. So we want to make baseball that one as well. So let's get right into it. Huge win last night. We're talking about the bat flip on the bat flip last night, courtesy of Jordan Beck. So guys, Dylan, I'll start with you. What was your overall take or notes of last night's win over the Northeast foe from Johnson City?
Love the name. First off, it rolls off the tongue really well, and yeah, it's like you said, it seems fitting for this team. I mean, it's whether it's Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck, every game seems like there's one that at least should be. I know the last one got posted on Barstool, but there's always one. There's always one with college baseball now. You'll see a highlight every night. It seems like so. I think it's really fitting. But with ETSU, I mean, you know going in that's going to be a tough game. No matter the talent difference, where the rankings are at, they're just two teams that don't like each other. I mean, you saw it last year. I'll never forget Solari rounding third and swiping the Tennessee across his chest, pointing at the ETSU dugout. So you come in, you know it's going to be a dogfight, wherever it's at, whatever the weather's like, whatever time of year, it's going to be a dogfight. So my main thing is just good to get a win. I mean, the offense continues to stand out. Jordan Beck with 2 bombs, even after a little bit of a cold stretch for him. But I mean, the pitching, I think the middle part before you get into the setup man, the closer, I think we've got a lot of guys there that can fill that role. I just think early on that 5th, 6th inning, we need somebody to step up to do it. But right now, I mean, early season before you're in SEC play, as long as the offense is rolling, I mean, you can get by without that right now. So it's good to see the offense rolling, and I just want to see it continue this weekend with Georgia, continue throughout the season, and you're going to be tough to stop.
Murphy?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Dylan said, coming into the ETSU game, that's going to be a tough one. They're going to bring the energy. They're going to bring the fire. They've got a good ball club too, and, nothing to take away from them on talent level either. So good to get the bats going. Always good to get 2 homers from, the middle of the order, especially when it comes from one guy. Jordan Beck's a favorite of mine on the team. I really love watching him play, watching him swing the bat at the plate. He's got a great quick swing and love the mechanics at the plate. So he's more than likely going to keep that success going. But yeah, I mean, the pitching, I wouldn't necessarily say the pitching is a weakness. I think guys are just trying to figure out the roles. So I think you have to continue to figure out where guys fit as far as, okay, is this a guy that's going to come in and bridge it from the starter to the back end, or is he going to be a back end guy? Are we going to start him? So, but that's kind of what you use the early part of the season for. So I think getting into conference play, now is when you got to figure out, okay, where are guys going to fit in this pitching staff? Who's going to do what? And you have a lot of guys who can do different things, I think. So, but good to get a win, good to keep the wins rolling as you go into conference play.
Yeah, I think this is just a game. It's not a win that's going to change your program by any means. ETSU, like you said, there's going to be some kind of fight. You saw the dugouts get a little rowdy last night, and it's always fun to see. But it's good to get some momentum heading into conference play. I thought Connor Housley last night was, Jordan Beck's going to get all the recognition for the bat flip ending the game the way that he did, but Connor Housley saved that game. He doesn't get a save in the stat sheet, but to come in with bases loaded, down 1 with only 1 out, and then get two strikeouts in a row. I thought that was huge for Tennessee. Pitched 3 innings, recorded 7 strikeouts, and gave up one hit, and I think it was a solo shot. So he pitched really well, and I think he was hitting 95 to 96 on the radar gun. So, like you mentioned, guys are trying to figure out their role, and he's a guy that's continued to flash. And I'm just looking at like who else can be thrown into there. What does Jackson Leaf look like? When's he returning? Number one. What's he look like after he returns? Jason Rackers is another one that they would love to get back, who sat out all last year. Redmond Walsh, Kirby Connell, Sean Hunley, guys that don't really have that specific starter role, but seem to always, be right in the thick of things when things get tough. So last night, my kind of takeaway was just this was a game that it was so fitting for this Tennessee ball club. Over the 4 years that Tony Vitello's been there, you've seen a scrappy team, a team that claws back and finds a way to win. You see the swagger with Jordan Beck's bat flip, with his shin guard flip. And then you see Tony Vitello when Beck hits the plate. He's the last one to kind of sprint and jump on the celebration. So I just thought it was just like Tennessee's program in a 10-inning game. That's what you saw last night. So like I mentioned, I think it's just a good game to get some momentum headed into SEC play. Let's talk about the game specifically. Tennessee wins at 9-6. Obviously, Jordan Beck gets the win. He had 2 home runs in the game. I think he was 3 for 6. Sorry, with 5 RBIs, 2 runs, 1 strikeout. Just a phenomenal game. And I think it was one of you two mentioned his kind of the start to the season was great. You're like, holy crap, this kid's going to be, one of the top hitters in the SEC. And he's kind of died off a little bit, but starting to pick that up at the right time, headed into conference play. So what are some more guys that you've seen really step up so far this season? Murphy, I'll start with you this time.
The first guy that comes to mind for me would be Pete Durkee. I mean, this dude, as of late, has been one of the hottest hitters in the lineup, if not the hottest hitter. And for me personally, I felt like he just kind of came out of nowhere. To start the season, he wasn't even in the starting lineup, and then got a little bit of playtime here and there at first base. I think he was coming in, like in those early games when they get a big enough lead, Luke Lipsius need to sit down or something. So for him now to take a hold of that DH role, and not only that, but he's hitting second in the lineup in between Spence and Jake Rucker, your two your bigger bats in the lineup, your better players. I mean, for me, that's huge. So his continued progress and development this season's been really interesting to watch. And then pitching wise, I mean, how could you not mention the true freshman Blade Tidwell? One of the most exciting pitchers I've ever had the pleasure of watching. Plus stuff. I love that slider. He threw a backdoor slider to somebody from Georgia Southern, and I mean, just totally froze the dude. Filthy. So it was disgusting. And so I cannot wait to watch him into conference play, what he can do against some of the better teams in this, not only college, but or the SEC, but in the entire college baseball scheme, how he's going to attack these hitters. So I hope that he continues the way that he's moving, getting better with each start. So sky's the limit for him. And Pete Durkee too. So those are the two that stuck out for me.
Dylan, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, Pete Durkee was one that's really, just because last year I feel like he struggled quite a bit, but seeing him step up has been very refreshing, giving you another guy in the infield that could come in. And I mean, honestly, what I've seen from him, there's not much drop off from him and Lipsius. I mean, especially working his way into that DH role. I mean, Max Ferguson's the obvious answer, just the preseason All-American. And I mean, he struggled a little bit starting off the season, but ever since then, I mean, he's been on fire. But kind of the under the radar, I mean, he was a top recruit coming in. It's Drew Gilbert. I mean, we mentioned him early on. I mean, he's I think he's established himself more as in the offense than he ever will be on the mound. But I mean, it's stepping up in some key relief situations. But his bat speaks for himself, and if the bat doesn't speak for itself, then the bat flip will. I mean, he's instant offense. He's a spark to the team when he's one of the smallest guys on the team. So I love watching him play. Kind of same setup Murphy did, going to the bullpen, going to a pitcher. I think it's been Will Heflin. I think he got a little roughed up in his one of his previous starts. I don't remember who it was, but kind of going back to one of my favorite moments of the season so far was it 8 straight he sat down on strikeouts, 8 straight or 9 straight. I mean, that was, and you see strikeouts like that and you think, oh, batter kind of got cheated on this one, but no, I mean, Will Heflin sat every one of them down and it looked easy. So that's the guy that has really stood out to me so far. I think he's your best candidate to really be one of the better arms out of the bullpen.
Yeah, some guys for me, Drew Gilbert really just stands out to me. I got to talk to Ross Kivett the other night, and he just said Drew Gilbert's wired different. That was his quote to me, and you can just see that. You can just see his swagger. I know Beck got all the attention last night for his bat flip, but Drew Gilbert's had a couple this season that would give Beck's last night a run for its money. So he's probably one up for me. I think Mr. Reliable is Liam Spence, a guy that he batted ninth the majority of last season, and did fairly well, but was more kind of in the lineup for his fielding, and took on that role. Max Ferguson kind of struggled out of the gate, and he took over that leadoff role, and he leads the team in batting average. I think he's second in slugging percentage. So he's just done a phenomenal job of really stepping up this season, and I've seen a huge improvement. I think he's gained 20 pounds since last season. So he put on the weight, put in the work, and you just love to see that from guys. And I think a lot of that comes from the top. You see guys like Tony Vitello jumping on that celebration. Like, guys buy into that; they eat that up, and guys like Garrett Crochet, who came in throwing 80, 85 miles an hour, and now he's throwing triple digits in the bigs.
And never touched the minors.
Exactly. And then Zach Daniels, who struggled his first 2 years on campus, but continued to be bought into the program, continued to work. And, he ends up being a high round draft pick last year. So, I just love the buy-in from this program. And, one guy that I'll go a pitcher too. One guy that stood out to me is Kirby Connell, a guy that you didn't really see last season, maybe a little bit against, a weekday opponent. But he's really kind of taken on that, sharing that closer role with Redmond Walsh. He's a lefty. His ERA is 0, and he's given up 9 hits in 13 innings, 14 strikeouts. And I love the mustache. Again, just going back to that swagger, I think that's what Tennessee is going to compete. Let's compete with the best of them. Let's have more swagger than them, and let's. I just love where the program's at right now. You're seeing our first top 10 ranking since 2006. Your regional berths, SEC tournament berths. Just getting back to the old Tennessee baseball. And, I'm excited to do this podcast just because, hopefully we're getting on the right track to getting back to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. And I think kind of what we mentioned earlier is there's so many young guys that are producing right now, freshmen and sophomore, but I feel like there's so many freshmen and sophomores that we kind of have just waiting in the wings that we haven't even, I wouldn't say haven't needed yet, but guys that just, they're not going to get much playing time. That's how good this team is right now. And that's the thing with baseball is you want to get guys like that playing time in blowouts like you've seen. We've done a couple times, but baseball is not a sport where it's basketball where if we didn't have Keon Johnson and Jaden Springer, who knows where we'd be right now. And it's not football where if you don't step up and produce right then, you're not going to win. I mean, baseball, you've got more of the developmental period there. So you've got, I mean, I'm just looking at the roster right now. You've got guys like Will Mabry, You mentioned Kirby Connell, McLaughlin. I mean, all sophomores. We mentioned Blade. He's a freshman. So there's so many just young guys that I feel like we haven't even seen half of what they can do so far. Then that's what really excites me. That's what not only gets you in the top 10, that's what keeps you there. So, I mean, we all know I love Tony Vitello. He's best coach on UT's campus, and I'll say it again,
100%.
has been since he's been here. So I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned, guys just not really seeing an opportunity because, this team is full of talent. And Logan Steenstra is a guy that kind of stands out to me because he's 6'5", 210. Like, he looks like a major league body. But Liam Spence, Mr. Reliable, is just tearing it up. So you can't just replace the guy. I think maybe he was trying to giving them an opportunity to win the job, and Liam Spence has done nothing to put himself behind Logan Steenstra. So they're having a hard time finding the field because of the talent ahead of them. So it's always a good problem to have.
It's nice to see someone win the job, like on Tennessee's campus. Like they just went out. They just went out. Were the better player. They won it, and because that makes the guy below them even better because they're constantly fighting because they want that job, but it keeps them pushing because they don't want the guy to have that job. I mean, it's nice to see that there was a guy that stepped up. He said, "Hey, sorry, it's my position. Like I'm running with it." Where we've seen, I mean, we're not going to name any names. It's a baseball podcast, but it's kind of put him out there because what else do we have? So
Exactly.
there's my one dig on our football program. But
So what do you guys think Tennessee needs to improve on heading into conference play? Murphy, I'll start with you.
Well, offensively, I think these guys are all throughout the lineup. They always put together consistent at bats. I don't think that's ever been an issue. They're not a team they're not super aggressive. They can be aggressive at times, but I've never really watched a game where I'm thinking to myself, okay, these guys need to start taking more pitches, seeing more pitches, and working the count. They always do that. So offensively, I just think it would be getting guys a little bit more in more of a consistency thing. Because you've got some guys that you're counting on that you've kind of moved around the lineup a little bit, trying to find where they belong. So I think just being a little bit more consistent at the plate would be for me offensively. And then from the pitching side, I would just have to say that, maybe kind of what I said before, trying to figure out roles of guys, trying to figure out who's going to, who you would look to put in certain positions and in situations and things like that. I think that figuring out your starting rotation probably is where I would start with. And I know that you're kind of limited because of Leaf going down and you were hoping that he would, potentially be another guy that you could count on. But outside of Cheese Dallas and Tidwell, they've kind of had some inconsistencies with the other guys they've used. I thought Mark McLaughlin has looked pretty decent so far. Elijah Pleasance has looked good, but also some inconsistencies there. So I think overall, I would just say being a little bit more consistent as you head into conference play, because these opponents, it doesn't get any easier from here on out.
Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, you left off on the mound there. I'll kind of start there. It doesn't worry me as much, just because, as I mentioned, I think you've got the guys there to do it. It's just figuring out who's going to do it and in what order. Like I think we mentioned it before. I think Jackson Leith, if he's healthy, is your Sunday guy. He fills the mold of a Garrett Crochet kind of. I just think he's got the stuff to do it, and I think he's got that bulldog mentality where no matter if you're up 2-0 and you've already won the series, or if you're battling for a series, it's not going to make any difference to him really. He's going to go out there and try to sit everybody down. I think for me the main thing is the lineup. I mean, we see the big play potential. We see the home runs. We see the exciting plays. I do think we could get a little bit better in the small ball portion of stuff as far as moving runners over, which we've got good speed, so should be pretty easy, and we can do it through steals. But the leaving guys on base, I mean, you're going to have stretches where that's going to happen, but I think it's happened a little too much for how good this lineup is. But I mean, it's like kind of like what we mentioned earlier. I think that's something that you could just be in a little bit of a rough streak with that right now, and who knows, against Georgia this weekend, that could break out then. But I think that's my main thing. Is just we know we've got a good offense. Just execute the little plays, the game changing plays like that a little bit better, because you're going to need it later on in the year. But if that's just me kind of looking for a complaint there. I mean, that's just trying to find something. I have no real complaints with them so far.
Yeah, you're winning games, so it's hard to really complain too much. Yeah, I think leaving guys on base has definitely kind of stood out to me a little bit. Maybe just in crucial situations, like when bases loaded, can't strike out. You know, you had a guy on third last night in the bottom of the ninth with one out. You
Right.
can't move him over. You get a strikeout and you get a pop fly that ends the inning. So you got to, last night they found a way to win, but you got to find a way to get to advance that runner somehow, some way. So that's probably one for me. I think inconsistent with the bottom of the lineup has kind of stood out to me a little bit. And I think that happens pretty much with every baseball team. You're going to have your hitters at the top of the lineup. But I think guys like Pavloni, Evan Russell, who have a big bat, I'd like to see them, cash in on more opportunities to advance some runners, get some more RBIs. I mean, Connor Pavloni was a preseason All-American. He only has 3 RBIs at that point. At this point, he did have I think a double last night, or maybe he did this past weekend.
May have, yeah.
So I mean, some guys are really stepping up. Max Ferguson has kind of struggled, and then he had a big weekend this past weekend against who do we play? Man, it's been a long. It's 2020 and 2021 have just been rough. Like it's terrible for my memory.
Charlotte was, when was Charlotte?
It was UNC Greensboro. Yeah, UNC Greensboro. Yeah. So he had a big weekend, like you all mentioned. Pete Durkee had a big weekend against them as well. So guys are kind of finding their own at the right time, and I just want to see more consistency out of the entire lineup and not just the top.
I do love that's one thing I noticed. Tony Vitello's willingness to move guys around in the lineup to provide a spark. It like you just mentioned from the bottom of the order. I know last night he had Max Ferguson hitting in the 8 hole. Like that's not somewhere I think you want him to settle in really. I mean, you'd prefer him be your 1 or 2 guy, just with the just contact potential he has getting on base, his speed. But yeah, it's kind of to your point. I like that he's willing to move guys around. Say we're not getting production there. Let me move a guy that I trust to get production. Let me move him down there and see if that kind of lights a fire under somebody. So yeah, I think that was a good point.
So Georgia this weekend, heading to Athens. I do want to mention Tennessee's had some, even though we haven't beat a top 25 opponent, we've had some decent wins. UNC Greensboro, they beat Virginia Tech this past weekend, who's a top 15 team. Or not this past weekend. They beat them in their midweek game. And then they beat NC State. Georgia State has wins over. They got a win over Vanderbilt somehow, some way they did it. They beat Georgia Tech, who was ranked number 10 at the time, 10-1. They split the series with West Virginia, who was number 14 at the time, 2-2. And so Georgia this week, they don't really have a ton of common opponents. Georgia Southern and Georgia State, they've each played them once. And Tennessee was able to win both of those, sweep both of those. So, not a ton of quality wins, I guess, if you're from the outside looking in. But anytime you sweep a team, I'm going to call that a quality win.
Right.
Tennessee has quite a few of those. Georgia's I had Georgia pulled up here a second ago. I think they're 13-3 on the season. They lost to North Florida, Kennesaw State, and I think they lost the first game of their season to the Purple Aces.
Sounds like Las Vegas.
Evansville.
Yeah, Evansville. Yeah.
Evansville. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So what do y'all have on Georgia, Dylan? I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, ranked number 7 in the country. I mean, it's not going to be easy. That's for sure. I mean, it's definitely going to be a step up in what you faced so far. It's kind of the first big test, really. I did notice. I was looking at their schedule here too. They did. Today's Wednesday, right? Yeah, they had a game yesterday against Wofford that was postponed for rain. So, kind of wonder if maybe they'll how that's going to work for them. Are they going to be a little bit rested from that? I mean, it's still early in the season. I think we played 17 games. They played 16. So don't know if it's really reached the point where guys are really that fatigued. But not having that midweek game, do they come out more refreshed? Do they come out a little rusty where we've had the game now? So I mean, biggest thing for me is going to come down. What I'm looking forward to is Saturday, because if Tidwell is starting, I want to see, even if he doesn't go out and have his best performance of the year, what's he going to be like against the Georgias, the Floridas, the Vanderbilts in the conference? Because if he can do it even against SEC guys, I mean that's a great sign. That's somebody that doesn't have to step up there with Dallas and Leith. So that's kind of my biggest thing I'm looking forward to is that Saturday game, especially depending on how the Friday game turns out. Because I mean, you may have a chance at winning the series over a team that's 3 spots ahead of you, another top 10 team and a SEC East rival. So that Saturday game with Tidwell is the one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and with SEC pitching comes more velocity. So hopefully we're able to see more home runs, more bat flips, if you will, this weekend. So yeah, I'm excited to see kind of where we're at with this test against Georgia, and see where we fare with just another SEC opponent. Because like if you go 500 in the SEC, you're a top 25 team. You're one of the best teams in the country. If you're able to do that. So yeah, I'm interested to see where we're at. See if this elevates anybody's game. If Max Ferguson, this would be a perfect opportunity for him to just show out and be the preseason All-American that we expected him to be from the get-go.
Right. And
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Go ahead, Murph.
I was just going to say to pick up on what you had said about people elevating their game. I've kind of seen it as, and I don't want to necessarily say that I think they've been doing this, but it seems like sometimes with these weaker opponents they've been playing, they kind of play down to their level a little bit in some of these series. Whereas they know they've got the talent, they know they're the better team, but just for some reason they let these other teams hang around. So I agree. I want to see if playing against these SEC teams, better competition makes these guys realize, okay, well, we got to turn it on now. It's got to be at 100% the whole rest of the whole game, instead of, oh wait, we're down in the 5th or 6th inning, we got to turn it on now. So having a full game of 100% would be what I'm looking for.
Yeah, Sunday's going to be interesting to me because like who is your starter on Sunday against conference play? Has Jackson Leith just been resting to get to this point? I'm interested to see who that starter is. Is it Connor Housley, who had a fantastic night, and he was cruising through 3 innings. So I'm wondering if that's because they're saving him for this week or this weekend, and I don't know. I'm interested. So last thing before we get off here, MVP so far this season.
Go ahead, Murph.
Oh, I guess you're letting me take it. I'll go Jordan Beck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fan club.
Number 1 pick. Yeah, the Jordan Beck fan club. Represent. Yeah. Mine, I mean, without Jordan Beck, I mean, I might go Drew Gilbert. I mean, just with the spark that he gives, I mean, you can look at the numbers and they're good. If I didn't go Gilbert, I might go Chad Dallas, just because he's that steady presence at the beginning. He's not going to blow anybody away. He's not going to just wow you with what he's got. He's just consistent. I mean, to me, he not really the same style as Greg Maddux, but they just go out there, they get their stuff done, and then by 7th or 8th inning, you hand it over to the bullpen, you've got to win. But I love Dallas, but I'll probably go with Drew Gilbert.
Okay, yeah, I like the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run race that we have with these two, both tied at 5. And it was interesting last night because if Drew Gilbert would have been able to hit a home run before his buddy Beck did after him, he would have tied Beck for the leader in RBIs with 20. But he stands at 17, and he was just inches from ending that game himself.
I thought he did. Yeah, I thought he
yeah.
did at first.
And there was one. I went to the Indiana State game, and he hits one in the bottom of the ninth off the top of the wall that would have won it.
Yeah.
And it was just unfortunate base running error after that. I don't really want to talk about it too much, but
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go Drew Gilbert too. Just the swagger, the bat flips. This is called the bat flip, so I mean you gotta give it to him. If I didn't go him, I'd probably go Liam Spence. Again, Mr. Reliable. Anytime you need a hit, he's going to be there to give it to you. And I want to see more of that power that we saw against Georgia Southern, going dead center on a grand slam for your leadoff starting shortstop. I want to see some more of that. I want to see that 20 pounds he put off in the offseason, and use that to some power. So, guys, do y'all have anything else before we head out? Do we close out the first episode of the Bat Flip?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I hope they come out and give Georgia a whooping. Georgia's my least favorite team of all time, so I hope they give it to them.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Run rule them. That's not really a thing anymore. But yeah, let's pour it on.
I'd have to go Florida, but I agree. Yeah, they're definitely up there.
It's just because I live down here. That's the reason.
That's right. Yeah, I forget about that. Yeah.
So where are you at?
So I'm about 45 minutes south of Atlanta in a little town called McDonough down here. So
okay.
Yeah,
man, it's all in Georgia.
I'm in the thick of it, man. They're Georgia fans everywhere you turn, and they love to bark in your face. So
that's gross.
Grown men barking in your face. You gotta love it.
All right, guys. Well, this is awesome. Check us out on Twitter. Again, go check out our sponsors: Tennessee Tap House, Hound Dogs, and Blue Water Climate Control. We will have more information of when we're going to host our next show. Hopefully it's here soon. So good luck. Go Vols.